Welcome to another episode of Always Be Connecting. Today we are talking to our guest who over the last 14 years has built his family business to the point where he is selling at Coles and Woolworths and Harris Farms and all the best fancy restaurants in Australia, as well as on Qantas. We are talking today to Pepe Saya and talking about his butter brand. Hello,
Thanks
Pepe.
for having me.
I'm so excited to talk to you. I've followed you for some time, like for about 10 years, and gone into Harris Farms and found your products when it was less available.
Yeah.
And it's such a good product. So like to be able to build a business around one solid product is quite an achievement. Like how did you get to being
Oh my God.
someone who was able to do that around butter?
It's an interesting concept, like focusing on one thing and trying to do it well. I think that's what, like we've really tried to have at the core of our business.
Yeah.
Is that, just stick to one thing. And then you don't realize how hard that is because, to make that, to make it sustainable off just one product is quite difficult. Most dairy companies in Australia tend to have, if they're a milk company, they'll make yogurt, they'll make cheese, they'll make a little bit of butter with leftover cream, they'll make, dairy things, as many things as they can possibly make to sort of, cover that, sort of close that market or have a whole stable of products that they could, because incomes sort of work where you've got one product and then it plateaus.
Yeah.
And then you have to put another product on top and then that takes your income up and then that plateaus. And then, so if you look at products traditionally, how it works is it looks like stairs.
Okay.
So the first product, so say you have a yogurt, a plain yogurt's the first step, a flavored yogurt's the second step, a milk is the third step, and it goes up in steps until they plateau out a little bit. Because unless you can sustain growth at 20% on one product, you can't have a business, right?
Yeah. Okay.
So it's very difficult.
Yeah. So how did you grow with one product?
Well, I think that the concept of growing with the one product is to make it available in different formats for different segments of the market.
Okay.
So I can tell you now, if we rely on our retail butters that we make, we wouldn't have a business. That's not a business model. The rounds you buy at, say, at Harris Farm.
Yeah.
We make those by hand. We make, 10,000 a week. You can't pay electricity from that. Doesn't.
Yeah,
You know what I
yeah,
mean?
yeah.
So you need so many other products in different markets. So for example, a restaurant won't buy a round that you sell at Harris Farm.
Yeah.
They need a different format, like a log or a little puck, like what you get on the airlines. And so you have to sort of treat the same product as a different SKU almost, or as a different product, if that makes sense.
How interesting.
So then you have this segment, your pie, your segmentation, and you're sending the same product into each different segment, but in a different format or look, or presented differently for usability.
And that's active listening to the industry, the customer.
Correct. Yeah, that's it. Absolutely. You have to find out what the market wants and try to play to that market.
Yeah.
Play to your audience.
And did you do that by looking at what they used? Because like it was still a disruptor to the market, your product. So like, were you looking at how they used it right now, or did you sort of look deeper into sort of what the problems were?
Our benefits is that we started off as a food service product, so a HoReCa, so to service the industry. So we started off as oh, we want to make a butter that a chef can use on their table. So when you start off and then we came into retail much later in the game. So even though we still had a retail product to start with, we made a retail product for the Harris Farms, or we sold it first at, the markets. But we started off all our focus was on the restaurants and the hotels and the airlines and how they could use that product. Because the way you've got to think about it, it's an interesting concept, is that when you walk into a restaurant, the chef decides what butter you're eating. Yeah. He's not coming up to you with 14 different butters and going, what would you like to eat? Which one would you like? But in a retail presence, the consumer decides, but say in our case, the butter company, we've got, say, salted and unsalted and maybe a smoked butter on the shelf. We're not competing just with other butters. We're competing with, the faux butters, and we're competing with, the margarines, and we're competing with an avocado, and we're competing with anything you can spread on bread, or you use for cooking oil, to help the food become palatable, right?
Yeah.
So we're competing with all those people on a retail sense.
Yeah.
But in a restaurant, so think about a restaurant or a cafe, if they have 200 people walking in that restaurant per week, let's say at minimum, you potentially can sell 200 serves of butter. If you have a retail store that has 200 people walking in, you're lucky if you can sell 4 to 6 butters, right? So how are you going to make a business out of that?
Yeah, right.
How are you going to keep the butter fresh on the shelf? How are you going to, there's a lot of, it's an intricate web, right? So these are, when you walk into a supermarket and they have so much choice, you go, oh, wow, there must be a massive population around here buying. Or the supermarket just wants to have lots of choice for people.
Yeah.
That means everyone's selling a lot less of everything.
Yeah, right.
Because they have so much choice.
Have you got a background in business or marketing or?
Marketing, yes. I wouldn't say I have a background in FMCG though. I've had to learn a lot of that stuff as we went along.
Was that fun?
Well,
learning as you go.
You sort of have to. How knowledge is these days. You have a knowledge base. But the knowledge base is so easy to sort of learn very quick on the go. That's what most of us are doing, right?
Yeah.
So, the idea of memorizing the Encyclopedia Britannica are days of past. Now, if you need to know something, you just go look it up.
Yeah.
Google it.
Someone's had that problem before.
Yeah. Someone's had this thing. There's a lot of literature out there about things. I mean, I remember a few months ago, we wrote a business plan for retail, our retail plan, how we're going to execute it. And then we thought, I said to them, okay, now jump onto AI and ask them to write a business plan on how to execute it.
Okay.
I mean, it was fundamentally almost the same.
Okay.
So, and ours was done by, experience and what we've learned over the last 15 years of, working in retail, and AI was almost the same. Almost. There's the human element that was missing.
But like you were probably asking the right questions, maybe?
Yeah, you've got to ask the right question. Yeah. But it was fundamental. It was very good. Like I was surprised. I was like, wow, okay.
How long did it take you to come up with your one?
We worked on it for about a week.
Yeah, okay.
Just to come up with a solid, execution plan for retail, how we're going to do it. So it's quite interesting. So the knowledge that you might say, they've been doing it for so long and they've got a background in this, and it's not necessarily, I think, the case these days. Is if you're pretty savvy with business already.
And if you're strong-minded and know where you want
Yeah.
to go, and
Yeah, I think grit and the will is more important than
yeah.
the knowledge base in
So-
some senses.
What is your background in marketing? Because I appreciate a lot of things about Pepe Saya's choices.
I think the even though I do have a strong foundation in marketing and a little bit of economics, I think it's true to say that I've been surrounded by people that are much clever
Yeah, nice.
than I
Yeah.
with a lot of these things, and I think that's what's made Pepe Saya what it is today. Just that the people that it's been surrounded by, because those choices were made
Yeah.
based on a collective of people that are very clever.
Yeah, okay.
People we work with, people,
Yeah.
people we ask advice of.
Yeah.
We tend to, before we just do something, it's not me in a room making a decision. It's, a lot of people, a lot of research goes into everything we do. So when we do make that decision, it's based on, asking a lot of questions.
So this is a great example of building a team to sort of do a task and like having lots of people. And I was talking to a colleague last week about how if you have lots of people on a problem, eventually you get to the right answer because of the wisdom of groups, or I can't remember what he called it. Like
Yes.
the collective, ants individually are not very clever, but together they
Right.
get jobs done.
That's right.
So like who was in your team, and like,
Well, we have some very interesting people in our group, in our round circle. We have Rob Locke from Food, Wine, Dine. He does most of our content that we have. We have Georgia Somerville, who heads up our comms. We have Harem Patel, who's the general manager of our group. We have Melissa Altman, who's my partner and wife, and who's also part of that. And then you have a lot of other people that, we bounce ideas off, and they're great. So we tend to, only 2 years ago, we have now a board, a sort of advisory board.
yeah, okay,
So we do bring people from, CEOs, well-known CEOs in business, to come in and say, okay, well, here's what we're working on now.
yeah,
What is your advice? And we actually approach them, and we pay for that.
yeah. How has that changed for you? Like, what has the board brought?
Well, look, you do it, even though groups of people are great to work with, and decision making in a round table is really great, right? It's great, but accountability is another thing. So if that plan didn't work, all of a sudden no one was at that meeting and no one remembers anything, and that's the reality, right?
Yeah.
So accountability is an issue. The buck stops basically with you. So as long as people are aware of that go into roundtable discussions, and the accountability is a big problem. So the decision making really does come from, you have to look at it as advisory decision making, but the decision will not be resting on the whole table, or the round table, or the group. But I think from an advisory level, the round table's great.
Yeah.
But the decision to do something should ultimately rest with the person that's going to be responsible for it if things work or don't work.
And is that you? Are you the driver? Are you driver of the train?
Well, yes and no. So Melissa drives the train in one end, and we sort of have that sort of the role of the company sort of split into two, where I'll look after, R&D, product development, and PR, marketing, and sales, and she'll look after, okay, the business running, the accounting, all the other things that need to be done as well.
Yeah.
But she'll obviously step into PR where she needs to, because she's very valuable for us in that sense, So we do definitely work as a team on that. So she's not coming to me asking me about what accountant we should use or what financial decisions we have to make. She has to make those decisions with her group around her. And I make the decisions with my group around me, and sometimes we overlap.
And was that natural? Like, in any good partnership of, couples, you have someone who likes cooking and someone who likes doing the dishes.
Right, yeah. I'll do the dishes any day.
Is that the same? Like, was it natural like that? Or are you in a couple of roles where you'd like to
No, I mean,
offload some things?
Look, Mel does a lot of sales. Mel look after a lot of PR things. She's extremely talented in that part. It's just how we fell into it from the beginning.
Yeah.
I mean, we I guess when we started the business, we had 2 young children. She was sort of primary looking after them. And then she would do our accounts on the side. And like when we first started, it was very small. And then as it grew, those were handed over, but then she overlooked them. So you still need, that sign off. And she just remained as the sign off person for those. And then because she's got a background in human resources as well, so it sort of helped us with, every time we need to hire someone, Mel, can you, we need to hire this. And so you naturally take on the roles that you sort of, people push you towards because you're really good at it, and I naturally just stayed on that R&D development, setting up, new machineries and staff programming and stuff like that. So, yeah.
So at the beginning and still now, you started at Carriage Works.
Correct, yeah.
In Redfern? Is that where
in Redfern, yeah. So they're Everleigh Farmers Markets or Carriage Works Farmers Markets. Yeah.
And that seems to be a bit of a thread throughout the 14 years?
Yeah, it hasn't stopped. We've gone in and out of a lot of different markets. So when we first started, we had 13 markets every weekend.
Okay.
So it was crazy, like Friday and Saturday and Sunday markets. So I think we were even doing a Wednesday market as well. So there was about 13 a week of markets we had to attend to. And then over time, and as you get busier with other things, you just don't have the energy for a lot of that anymore. And it's very hard to find people that do have the energy for that.
Yeah, it's hard to sustain. I've done markets before, and
it's very difficult.
Yeah.
So Carriage Works was the first place we ever sold butter in, and I think it was like November 2010. We sold our first pat of butter at Carriage Works with Esther Winborn. She had a stall there with the Country Valley. Country Valley had like a co-op store, and it got approved to sell it there. And then I used to just go down there and help with the tastings every Saturday. And then eventually we started doing Piedmont, and it's fair to say we didn't have our own stall at Carriage Works. We were selling through Country Valley.
Okay.
Right. And then eventually we took on our own stall.
Yeah.
And we've stayed there ever since. And partly because it's we see it as the birthplace of Pepe Saya in one sense, because the first butter sold there. And I guess secondly, it keeps us right at the forefront or the coalface with our customers. Yes. So Melissa and I are down there. If we're in Sydney, we're at the markets on Saturday.
Every Saturday?
Every Saturday. For
14 years.
Putting butter on bread, putting the Pepe Saya on bread.
Yeah.
On Sonoma bread. We use Sonoma. We've partnered up with them. And so it's sort of like for a lot of people, they grab their coffee and they walk over, grab their bread and butter and keep walking just to have a try. And we're there just for that, for people to try it, because that's the idea of our stall is we have a big wheel of a 2 kilo wheel of Pepe Saya cultured butter, and we have the fresh Sonoma bread, and we just slather it on and put it up for people to try.
What an event.
It's great. It's great. So many people come up and try it. So we'll go through about, I don't know, about 8 loaves of Sonoma, you know, the big miche loaves that they have, and about a little bit over 2 kilos of butter every Saturday there.
And what do you get out of having that relationship with Carriage Works and the people who go to Carriage Works over 14 years?
Yeah, look, you build up a lot of relationships with the customers that go there. We've also seen the shifts of, you know, people just coming to Carriage Works to, you know, have coffee, to then become customers of Carriage Works, where they're doing all their shopping there, to then maybe move away and come back. You know, you just see these massive shifts of waves coming in and out of the market. It's actually quite good to watch. You know, if you asked me to describe a customer of Carriage Works markets in 2010, it's very different looking than the customer of today. You know, I'm sure some of those are still there, I'm taking away, but you got 4,000 people a Saturday walking through there. So you notice change.
And what a great way to test the market as well, because
Absolutely.
you've got new products coming out. You've got Chunky Dave.
Yep.
I bought some pancake mix
last
night because that looks amazing.
Nice.
What other things?
So for example, at the Carriage Works markets, we tested out our clotted cream. So Qantas, we got approached by Qantas to make a clotted cream for them for afternoon tea for business class, and we made it for them. And then we didn't really release it retail. We tested it. We're testing it still at the farmers markets. So at Carriage Works.
Sure, I think I followed. I think I saw some posts that you made about it. That it's actually quite hard to make it in a way that is it holds. Is that right?
Well, yeah, you've got to make it that it's got to be thick enough, but also creamy enough. So it's quite a difficult product to make. You've got to get the cream right. You've got to have the equipment to cook it, you know, because you got to cook it sort of in an oven. So it's quite hard to make it into little things. So we've had to work around all those things and product develop it. And it's been a lot of fun. I mean, product development's a lot of fun. If you've got the headspace for it, it's great. It's a lot of fun. And then taking it to market. So it's really great to be able to make a product, but then you got to sell it.
Yeah.
That's the challenging part.
And like, would you be like one product at a time? Do you ever dream of like 10 products that you can make, but you're like, no, I got to concentrate on certain things, or
like one of the biggest feather in our cap has been our salted caramels that we made with Olsen Salt and Adora chocolates in Marrickville, and so it's a salty buttery caramel by Pepe Saya and Olsen Salt. So it features, it's the whole highlight is the Olsen Salt from Eyre Peninsula, South Australia, and the Pepe Saya butter, that creaminess and butteriness that you get in a salted caramel. And then it's made by experts, which are Adora chocolates in Marrickville. And that's, so if I look at a product that I think I've absolutely perfected, it's just the perfect product, is that. It's just perfect in every way.
And are these people that you've met at Carriage Works? Like the Adora
Olsen
chocolate?
Salt.
Yeah.
So Olsen Salt's someone, when we started the butter, when we started making the butter, we contacted wanting their salt in our butter.
Yeah, okay.
So our relationship with them obviously spans for, you know, the 15 years or something, because we wanted to use an Australian salt that was really beautiful and it was just pure and had real substance. Like, I mean, the stories interest me about brands, like their story. It's very, I find that fascinating, right? Like Olsen Salt, they've got just touching on that, they've got if you look at their logo, it's like a bull with horns.
Okay.
And then you sort of go, well, why is the logo like that for a salt? And it's fascinating, right? So they started in like 1949 because of a drought, and they needed salt licks for cattle and sheep.
Okay.
So the cattle and sheep and cows, they all lick salt to give, because they need salt. They can't just eat grass. They need a lot of things. And they started making those, and that's how that. So I came across them walking through a paddock when I was down at a farm, and the cows were licking this salt lick. And I looked at the logo, and I'm thinking, I asked the farmer, I go, what is that they're licking? And he said, salt licks. They're made by Olsen's. And I remember tearing off the piece of their logo. And then I go, well, why? We should be using their salt in the butter that the cows are licking, so
sure,
you have that chain.
It's another example of making the products for the, you make it for the cows and you make it for the butter connoisseurs.
Exactly. and then I mean, not to go into it too much, but the story, that product I love so much because it's got such a beautiful story to it. It sort of solidifies our connection with Olsen's and working with other producers, like the chocolatiers and Marrickville, making that for us, and then delivering that product into the market as just a beautiful product that you can enjoy. Obviously, the butter is a big, it's the core product, and that's the one, it's on our flag, sort of, so to speak. But this was a lot of fun making as another product.
Because it sounds like you've got a beautiful relationship with all these producers. So like farmers.
Yeah, some. Not everyone. I can't like everyone. They can't all like me. No, but we do have.
You find your tribe.
Yeah, you do. And it's important to understand that you can't be all things to all people.
Yeah, okay.
So that's really important. And also whoever said it, that a friend in need is a pest. So it's really important to understand those things. So anyone listening, if I come knocking wanting something, you can say that to me. But yeah, it's been, so bringing products onto the market, I think that the most challenging thing is you might have in your mind a product you want to make, but the product might not be wanted by the market. So you've also got to realize that. So you got to ask a lot of questions and, do you research properly? And just because someone says no to you, it doesn't mean it won't work.
How do you do your research? Do you engage a researcher or
no. I don't recommend anyone doing that.
Okay.
I think you need real research in the market. You need to go
talk to people.
You got to go talk to people, and you got to find out, well, would you buy this? Okay, would you buy it at this price? How would you use it? Why would you use it?
How are you doing that? Is that at Carriage Works? Is that formally? Have you got a pad with you?
Yeah. Not a pad. Your notepad, but not any, like,
not
you've got
clipboard.
your questions. You've got to find out. So a perfect one that's fresh right now is with Chunky Dave.
Yeah.
So we've just developed a little single serve. Now, look, one of the worst things to develop right now in this sustainable environment we live in is a single serve. So we've made it, it's aluminium packaging, not plastic. It's recyclable. It's really beautiful. It's a single serve peanut butter. Now, when you think about it, well, no, can't the cafes just put peanut butter into a little ramekin? Well, they can, because we also have a 2 kilo tub. But there's a segment of the market that doesn't want contamination because of the allergen.
Yeah.
So for example, secondary schools, they're allowed to serve peanut butter.
That's a lot of considerations for a peanut butter, isn't it?
It is.
Yeah.
But they're only allowed to serve in a single serve.
Yeah.
Now, the only other one on the market is the bigger one. And it's a different type of peanut butter than what we make. So now you have to work out, okay, if I make a single serve peanut butter, where am I going to sell it? Who's going to buy it? What is the price point? You know, all those things. You got to go through all those things. Now, I can't ask the person in the office next to me. I got to go out into the market and actually ask the chefs, the gatekeepers, the decision makers, who's going to buy it. So we got to go out. You got to go out and do your research on, well, who's going to buy it? What's your price point? That the maximum you're going to spend? All those things. So there's a lot of considerations when you launch a product. It's not as easy as just make it, build it, and they will come.
Yeah.
You know, like you got to have a.
And are you talking to people that you know, going to existing relationships, or
some existing? But it's very important to speak to people you don't know. It's very important. You need unbiased opinions as well.
And you find most people are fairly willing to answer a couple of questions?
Yeah. People are willing to give you their advice on something they think. I mean, you know, I've had very interesting advice over time. There was a food when I first started the butter, or before I started the butter, I had the logo of Pepe Saya up, and I asked a food photographer what they thought of this logo for a butter. And their answer was, it's hideous, and if you put it on food, it's not going to sell, right? Sure. So just because someone works in food and might have knowledge and be very well known in food doesn't mean their opinion. It's just their opinion, right? Yeah. And you asked the question. So it doesn't mean their opinion's wrong. It's up to you to decipher that and, you know, listen and take it on and take it off.
But it's like children's names. If you tell before they're born, if you tell them ahead of time, people have opinions on them.
Correct.
But if you wait till the end, then they're like, oh, lovely.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. So product development is a big thing. Like, you know, I think very large companies tend to do it. They go into focus groups, and they tend to go into detail with
the formal end of things.
Yeah, but their results are usually quite good. Yeah. I mean, they launch a lot of products that don't work as well, or like, you know, big companies, you probably get about 60 to 70% of all the products they want to bring out to the market never even make it to the market.
Yeah. Well, what I'm thinking about from you're talking is how Starbucks came to Australia and built a load of of chain stores, but didn't quite work out because they hadn't really researched the Australian market, which is very different to
the US and even the UK.
Yeah.
Right. So like when I remember following that story quite closely, and because I was so interested in it. And the biggest thing is we already had an established coffee culture of our own. And then they came in and they realized, oh, geez, people are getting better coffee over there, you know. So, and I always, every time I spend time in America or in England, I pinch myself at the incredible coffee culture we have here in Australia. Yeah, and we're so blessed not to have that coffee culture. That's all I can say.
And then a few things I want to highlight as well is you didn't go to Qantas. Qantas came to you. Is that right?
Yes and no. So the way it worked was it was through a connection. So Alex Woolley, who was the executive chef of Est at the time, Est at Establishment, their flagship restaurant, he put us in touch with the head of the first class and business class menus at Qantas, Roger Barstow. And then Roger made contact with me about, potentially working together. And then we developed a product especially for them at the time. It was a beautiful product. So yeah, yes and no, but I mean, they've been instrumental in our growth and in helping us. I've got to say that, like Qantas really, really did do a lot for our business.
The credibility is authority. There's something there, isn't there?
Yeah, there's definitely the association with a brand like Qantas that you're on the Qantas plane and then you must be good. And that definitely helped us. And we tried to do our best to tell people we're on the plane. Like we're on the planes. We're on the planes. That's great. We're at Qantas and they're great. And Neil Perry's team, like I can never say enough about Qantas. Even if we stopped servicing them one day for whatever reason, I would always hold them up on a pedestal for what they did for our business. And because they made us also comply and become better.
Yeah, okay. Yeah. That's how I feel about Australian citizenship. Like it made me comply and be a bit better. But so you're in the fancy restaurants and you're in the first and business classes of Qantas. But people, so that's like the fancy end of things, but people can also, it's very accessible for people's homes as well. And that's kind of like an interesting thing about Pepe Saya. And also, when you're in the fancy restaurants and on Qantas, it's got that tab on it saying who you are.
Well, here's the interesting thing, right? Is that if you were going to serve people Pepe Saya right now, you're paying a premium for that than other butters. And you want to tell people what you're serving them. So I guess our original ideologies are coming through now. They're paying off now. Our ideologies on brand and that we invested in our brand. We want it's about provenance, terroir, people. Those are the three things, product, place, people. And then because of that strong core in that, people now, when they buy our butter or want to serve it, they see value in telling you or someone else when they come in to eat, wherever they are, in whatever setting, that this is Pepe Saya.
Yeah.
So, and that's the investment we made early days in the brand, and we make every day in the brand.
Yeah. And it really comes through. It's really interesting.
I think so.
And it's so what's the word? Like it's in the ether. You can't really put your finger on it of like what it is.
But you know it.
But yeah.
Yeah. No, so we've but a lot of investment's gone into that. So you got to see as brand equity, and it's like a bank account. You just constantly putting into it. I mean, that's the value, right? So everything we've done for the brand or in the brand is in that image
to elicit a feeling.
Yeah, that's exactly right.
Yeah.
Brands have a feel about them, right?
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
So like in terms of always be connecting, of like making connections with people, it's interesting that you've put a lot of effort and energy and money and into creating an experience. It's not just a butter, it's something that
it's meant to make you feel a certain way when you eat it.
Yeah. And then you've also got that network of people who you talk to and find out things about. So like there's constant being around people for you.
100%. Because I mean the product, the place, and the people is what makes it. So the people are one of the most important elements of creating something, because it's made by people. It's not, it's got a soul. Yeah. So I guess this is what resonates, or an important saying is people connect with people, not with things. Like we don't connect with that glass. I'm connecting with you, not with
Yeah,
glass of
yeah,
water.
yeah.
So it's sort of interesting.
And then there was one more thing I wanted to talk about because I was reading about I read a news article about you and your wife last night and how you were on holiday in is it a tuk-tuk? Is that what you call it? You hired a tuk-tuk?
A tuk-tuk.
A tuk-tuk.
Yeah.
And you were sitting on your tuk-tuk that you had hired and a lady came over and jumped in the back and said she wanted to go somewhere.
Yeah. And we took her.
And you took her.
Yeah, well, she had to go to the station. she thought I was a taxi. I said, okay.
But there's something it really inspired me in that moment because I wouldn't do that, honestly. And I think a lot of people wouldn't do it. But and there's just one other person who I know who would do it. And he's also very successful in business. And I wonder if there's something about that. Okay, sure. Like, let's help somebody out here. You didn't tell her until you got to the station that
because she gave us money.
Yeah.
And she was giving us money and I'm going, no, we're here on holidays. And and then I didn't realize maybe I had too much of a tan at the time. I was like, I don't know. But, we're in Sri Lanka and we hired a tuk-tuk and apparently you're not allowed to do that. But
really?
We didn't know that until after.
Wait, is that goodwill? Is that were you amused by it? What were the feelings that?
I think the fact that she was an older lady and she walked up to us and she needed a tuk-tuk and we just had nothing to do anyway. We're on holidays. So we said, okay, where are you going? She said the station. Yeah, okay, we'll go to the station.
Yeah.
And it was no big deal.
Yeah.
We thought it was fun. So, doing good deeds is a good thing, right? It's a nice feeling.
And I think that's a real testament to a good business person is somebody who's willing to say yes to some things like that, like to help people out. And
I'm constantly being told that a better approach is say no more often than yes.
Oh yeah.
I'm starting to believe that.
But there's I'll counteract it and say I think there's you have your own limits. If you've got nothing to do and you've got a tuk-tuk and someone needs to go somewhere, then
you take them. Why wouldn't you take them? Yeah, definitely. Interesting you read that. I don't even know where I said that before. My God.
And then finally you've spent the last 6 months or in America.
Yeah, we've just opened up in America. We opened our production facility there in Pennsylvania with the Amish and in a partnership with them, which is pretty incredible.
And how did that partnership come about?
Well, Melissa made that happen. So she was over there in fancy food. So we found ourselves in a unique sort of space after COVID, where we were supplying to central markets in Texas, our butter, and he wanted to keep it on, but freight went up. And so we had to sort of explore the market. So Georgia, our comms manager, and Melissa, they went over to Fancy Food and they just put a sign up looking for a distributor and looking for a dairy partner. Mm. And then they came back with the Amish. They came back with a few different options, but we ended up going with the Amish because they understood handmade. They understood, they had a connection directly with the earth, with the cows, with the cream, with the, they understood, how to make real food. That's their thing. Mm. So the relationship started with them, and it's just a year old. The whole thing from when we met them to now, it's only a year. And so we're doing, we've already got our online up. We've got distribution. We're in about 170 stores in the US, which is pretty incredible considering we only launched at the end of March, the product into the market. And it's been really well received. Mm. Cultured butter. It's not a big thing there. Cultured butter, like it's not like locally, it's not.
Yeah.
They obviously have the international brands coming in, but like local, there's not a lot of cultured butters. So it's been really good.
So it's so interesting that you like wouldn't just export it. You know, that you found this way of bringing in a community to.
Yeah, I think that we strategized. Our strategy for the last few years has been very, very simple when it comes to export and sustainability.
Yeah.
So it's been that if there's no cows, export the butter. So take countries that have no cows like Singapore, Dubai,
Okay.
Hong Kong, like they have no, that they have to
see
import,
research.
100% almost of their, meat and dairy.
Yeah.
It's almost 100% imported. And then we export to countries that don't have cows, but countries that have cows and have a dairy industry, like say the UK,
yeah,
it's crazy. It's like, okay, you'd
there's
export
a lot of
it
cows
there.
in the UK.
Yeah, you'd export it there as a trial to see how it runs, get it off the ground, see if people like it. But then eventually you have to make it there because they have cows there, and sending dairy product from Australia to the UK is not exactly a sustainable model, right?
Yeah.
So you have to sort of think. So where there's cows, export the brand. Where there's no cows, export the butter.
Yeah.
If that makes sense.
Yeah.
So that's our export strategy, international strategy.
Yeah.
So Japan we do have a couple of retailers in Japan. It's probably a really nice market for us to go into because it's so close to home, and their dairy industry is quite small. So it makes sense to sort of focus on Asia and environs. But when we talk about something like the US or UK, if we ever do have those ambitions to go any further than the US, let's just see how the US goes before we before we go anywhere else.
Before you get too excited.
Yeah. You gotta, just let's just take it one step at a time. So, I think that this is our first test of that model.
Yeah.
And we don't know if it's going to work or not. So far, so good, touch wood, but that's about it. We don't know anything yet.
But you've done everything that you can, all the due diligence.
Yeah, like I've spent about 4 months over there this year, and I spent about 2 months over there last year, setting up, getting everything right, running it all. And because now the environment that we live in after COVID, you can run a lot of things remotely now. People's expectations or what you see as normal has changed, right? Our normal has shifted. So you can Zoom meetings were never a thing for our industry before COVID. And now, 90% of our meetings are on Zoom, or we no longer have to go see people to actually have face-to-face. So whether you're in Ballarat or you're in Sydney or you're in Washington, DC, it doesn't really matter. So you don't have to be there for things to happen.
But there is a specialness of.
Yeah, and I guess that's where I have to spend, half my year there and half my year here.
Yeah, okay.
And Melissa obviously picks up my duties that I do here. So this is how it sort of all works.
How interesting. I think that's a bit of a treasure trove of business nuggets in there of, research, talk to your customer, personalize for your customer. Like, where are they? What would you say? Product, place.
And people.
People.
Yeah, product, place, and people. And I think, the mindset is, I guess we're all talking about the mindset these days and how, you're thinking and thinking's evolved. And, so there's a lot of that in there as well, making sure that you go the distance. Sustainability as well as prices go up. So, sustainability is a big thing now.
That's very cool that you're very conscious of it. Or is
Well,
it just natural? Because you're using.
well, I think a lot of us confuse or talk about the word sustainability and think it only relates to the planet. It relates to everything because we're on the planet, right? So it relates to profit. If you don't have profit, there is no sustainability. You're going to shut your business down, right? So that's sort of like if I make a list of 10 things in my business and I go sustainability, the first number one point, and I know this might sound a bit, capitalistic, but number one point is profit. Number two is how does everyone benefit? So that's all part of sustainability. It's not just green packaging or recyclable packaging. There's more. It's like, okay, is the farmer getting paid enough? Because if he's not making profit, we come back to profit, he's not going to keep going, is he? He's not going to be able to feed his animals right, look after them. He's not going to be able to employ people. So there's a lot of things in there. There's a lot to unpack, but we tend to just talk about sustainability in a green sort of, it's a bit strange.
Yeah, okay. Very interesting. And if you wanted to spruik what you're excited for, or new products coming out, or where people can find you?
Yeah, so in Sydney, it's definitely Harris Farm is the place to go. They're the only retailer that stock pretty much everything we make.
Yeah,
they're great. Okay. They've been a great supporter of ours from the beginning, really. I'm excited about the peanut butter we're doing. I think that's really good. The little portions, the buckets, the glass jars, they're great. It's a lot of fun, that project. Clotted cream is good. Very fatty, but it's really good. It's really, really good. Especially now in the winter months, it's like clotted cream on everything. Every dessert's just clotted cream. But yeah, if people want to try our stuff, go no further than our website. We pretty much go everywhere in Australia, and we have so many yummy things on there because our website is curated to be just a world of like yummy buttery things and then a lot of nice little add-ons.
Yeah, it's got such a beautiful curated touch to it, like the pancakes that. It's like your nice aunt. It's like your nice aunt would have.
But we've got
weekend.
But we've got a lot of like local producers on there, a lot. So chocolates from Jessica Paidemont, beautiful. There's one chocolate from Hunter and Gather in Melbourne. They use our ghee to make the chocolate, and when you put it in your mouth, it just melts. It just immediately melts. It's incredible. What else have you got on there that's really cool? You got some nice cordials on there that are handmade cordials by Katie Swift.
Okay.
She's in Marrickville. So there's a lot of local producers like cookie dough from Butter Boy, and they make a beautiful like burnt butter cookie dough with chocolate chip. And, so many nice things.
Yeah, I haven't had breakfast yet, so I'm feeling a bit hungry. Thank you so much, Pepe. I've learned a lot, and I need to go and do some research and check my profit margins. So thanks so much for sharing with us.
No problem.
I really appreciate that.
Thanks for having me.